I'm going to mess it up right off the top because I always call it Giphy. Apparently it's Giphy. But regardless, there's money in animated GIFs or GIFs, however you want to say it. This waster of time for messaging clients the world over just closed a $55 million Series C round of funding. That makes the valuation for the company set around $300 million for basically the Google, the Google search engine or the search engine for animated GIFs. That you might, compare to Google as the search engine for everything else. Giphy is kind of like carved out their niche in searching animated GIFs. I use it all the time. Well, mainly in Slack, we use it.
Facebook Messenger also.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of using it. Messenger. Yeah, I didn't jump on the Giphy bandwagon at first. I thought it was a thing for the young, but I do enjoy it when you're communicating so much. Sometimes you require a GIF to communicate. even though like its integration into Slack is so incredibly random. Like you type in a couple of words, slash Giphy or Giphy or whatever. I'm just gonna say Giphy from now on. Okay. Slash Giphy and then the emotion or whatever, and it gives you a totally random thing. Most of the time it's like awkward and weird, and you would have never chosen that animated GIF to begin with. Jason, what do you think about this? Is this just yet another example of the overly valued tech world that we live in, or is this justified?
Well, I mean, based on what happened more recently with some of the devaluations we've seen in some of the the hotter tech companies, this came as a bit of a surprise to me. When my colleague kind of saw it come across on Twitter, he was like, that GIF website that we like, yeah, Giphy, I love that website. They were like, it's worth way more than you ever expected it would. I suppose the rationale that they is generally being put out is understandable. That if this really does become one of the central pieces of the internet going forward and of how we communicate with each other, then sure, if I'm using this kind of website every day and I'm searching for stuff that clearly yields money making opportunities, and I suppose on some level, if you wanted to think of GIFs as kind of like the highlights of the internet, these little snippets that are the best of everything and they're really fun to pass around, there's a lot of value there. At the same time, I'm going to be honest with you, this does seem like somebody is kind of going out on a limb a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Matthew Ingram, who's on this week, said it's worth more than the Washington Post. That's crazy.
Based on the valuation.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, you think about those Snapchat lenses, the thing where you can throw up rainbows and stuff. If you look at how much money they make by advertising those, it's not so shocking to think that that GIFs are going to be the next thing that we put ads on, and there's a lot of money there.
Yeah, and I think when you kind of compare something to the Washington Post, and not that that's a bad comparison, it kind of just goes to show you how things are valued these days, but it is a little apples and oranges. Mm-hmm. Giphy, being more of this open platform that people can use, I mean, that's the same type of valuations we've seen for every other platform that comes out there, whether it's a photo platform or a music platform or anything like this. When you kind of have these open systems that allow people to kind of, become the content producers that other people use, that's become a very, very valuable and lucrative place to be. Whereas if you're a content producer like the Washington Post or like Mashable or really anywhere else, that's a tough game. I mean, it's very, very difficult to make that into a positive, cash flow situation, because people like myself, unfortunately, have to be paid, and we don't come terribly cheap. We come pretty cheap, but it's just a tougher thing to monetize. So I think Giphy saying to their investors, listen, we've got this huge platform. People are just going to give us all the GIFs. People are going to come to us to search all the GIFs. We just have to connect them. We're this platform. It's a platform play, just like Google was when they were searching. It's understandable in that sense why it's worth more than a place like the Washington Post.
Yeah, and they're really kind of riding high on the be everywhere kind of style of things. Mm-hmm. You'll find it in all of your in a lot of your kind of your messaging platforms. Is just kind of there, in some way or form, and it's not being monetized at this point. It's really just all about collecting as many users, getting as many people to think about using Giphy or Giphy. I can't even make the permanent switch in my brain. It's impossible. But just thinking, like associating it. The Facebook.
I still call the Facebook.
All right.
Well, what about copyright issues? I mean, are they likely to? I mean, is this the time when we used to get free music and we used to go to LimeWire and say, look at all this free music, it's just here for the taking. That's how I feel about all these GIFs. But is there a point at which you look at the Grammys last night? There are a ton. I mean, and Giphy even said, look how we showed you the Grammys last night. And there's a Taylor Swift GIF and all these things where people weren't watching the Grammys, the Giphy. They were watching the Giphies, not the Grammys. They were watching it on Twitter. And is there a point at which these copyright holders are going to be like, hey, that's our content and you're using it to entertain. You need to pay us.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just kind of an easy follow the money situation. These things aren't quite monetized yet, and there's probably not enough money behind them yet to really, entail people going after it. But that's clearly where we're headed. We've already actually seen it with sports highlights and GIFs on Twitter. Yeah. Some cease and desist got sent out to, I think, Deadspin and SB Nation last year, kind of saying like no more use of these NFL clips. That is copywritten content that people can't just throw up, assuming that, there's a little bit of gray area there in the argument, but that's clearly where this is going. So, yeah, I mean, I think everybody's just kind of waiting for that day when a lot of these rights holders start saying, you're not allowed to just kind of take our content and throw it around like that.